I used to think caves were just holes in the ground, dark, quiet, maybe a little damp, but harmless. I used to believe that if you had the right gear and a solid team, you could conquer any depth, any darkness. That was before I entered the Hollow. It started with an email. A guy named Marcus Wren, geologist, fringe researcher, sometimes conspiracy nut, had been trying to get a team together for years to explore an uncharted cave system in the Appalachians. Most folks ignored him, said he was paranoid, obsessed. But I owed Marcus a favor. Years ago, he pulled me out of a bad situation on a failed expedition in Guatemala. I figured at worst, I'd hike into some dead-end cavern and bail after a day. But this wasn't just some cave. Marcus met me at a rundown gas station near the border of West Virginia and Kentucky. He looked older than I remembered, gaunt, pale, like the sun hadn't touched his skin in months. "You came," he said, almost surprised. "You still owe me a case of whiskey," I replied. He didn't laugh. We drove out in his battered Jeep for hours, past coal country and forgotten towns, until the road ended in forest. From there, it was all hiking. The air grew colder, quieter. The trees leaned in like they didn't want us passing through. Eventually, we reached a rock face hidden behind tangled brush. That's where he showed me the entrance, a slit in the mountain, barely wide enough for a grown man to slide through. I should have turned back then. The first chamber was narrow and low. We had to crawl for nearly 20 minutes before it opened into something wider. Marcus moved like he knew every inch of it already. I asked how often he'd come down here. "Just once," he said. "That was enough." Then why the hell were we back? He didn't answer, just kept moving forward. The air changed after a while. It got thicker, like breathing through a wet rag. And the silence. It wasn't silence anymore. There was a kind of hum, not mechanical, not natural, just a presence, a deep, constant vibration you could feel more than hear. We set up camp at what Marcus called the Threshold, an underground lake that shimmered like black glass. I dipped my hand in. The water was icy cold, but that wasn't what made me jerk away. It whispered. I don't mean it made a sound. I mean I heard something inside my head the second my fingers touched it. A voice, just a breath, like someone exhaling a single syllable. "Stay." I yanked my hand out and stepped back. Marcus didn't react. He was staring into the water, blank-eyed. "Did you hear that?" I asked. He blinked slowly, then nodded. "Yeah, I always do." That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing small sounds, drips, shifting rocks, the occasional echo that didn't feel like it belonged to us. At one point, I thought I heard my own name, repeated faintly, as if from across the lake. The next morning, Marcus was gone. I called out, but my voice died in the wet air like it didn't want to carry. I found a second tunnel leading deeper, and his gear, climbing ropes, a journal, abandoned just inside. I had two choices: go after him or climb back up and leave him to whatever madness he'd walked into. I chose wrong. I clipped in and descended. The path twisted like intestines. The deeper I went, the more the cave seemed alive, breathing, pulsing. The stone was damp and warm in some places, as if blood still moved beneath it. Then the light on my helmet flickered, just for a second. But in that flicker, I saw a figure in the shadows ahead, too tall, too thin, watching me. When the light steadied again, it was gone. That's when I started hearing the echoes. But they weren't mine. I'd heard echoes before, real ones. You shout into a canyon, into a tunnel, and the sound bounces back. Simple physics. But these weren't bouncing back. They were answering. At first, it was subtle. I'd cough, and I'd hear it mimic me, but off somehow. Too slow, too wet. Then came the breathing. Not mine. Something shallow and deliberate, just behind the curve of the tunnel. Never too close, never too far. I'd stop. It would stop. I kept going. God knows why. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber that dropped away like the belly of the earth had caved in. My headlamp stretched across the void and disappeared into darkness. A stone bridge, natural, jagged, led across to a small ledge, and I could see a campfire had once burned there. Charred rocks. A half-melted canteen. Marcus had been here. I crossed slowly, testing every foothold. The air was colder, and with each breath, I swore I heard that same whisper again. Stay. But this time, it wasn't passive. It was pleading. When I reached the ledge, I found his journal. It was damp, pages curled and smudged, but I could still read some of the entries. Day 1. Heard the voice again. It's louder here. Not sure if it's inside or outside my head. Day 2. Shadows don't match my movements. Something else down here. Still can't tell if I'm hallucinating. Day 3. I heard Mom's voice last night. She's been dead for 10 years. Day 4. The echo isn't just sound. It's memory. I sat down and stared into the darkness. What did he mean? Memory. Then I heard it again. But not stay this time. It said my name. Eli. Clear as a bell. And it wasn't just a voice I heard. I felt the memory come with it. Christmas morning when I was 10. My dad lighting the fireplace. My mom laughing. The warmth of that day hit me like a wave. And then it was gone. Just cold rock and silence again. I didn't understand what was happening. But something in that cave could reach into me, into my past, and play it back. Not just sound, emotion. I turned off my headlamp for a moment, just to listen. That was a mistake. In the dark, I felt movement, not wind. Movement. Something brushing my sleeve, sliding past my boot. And then I heard the breathing again, closer this time. I turned the light back on fast. Nothing. Empty stone. But I wasn't alone anymore. I knew that the way you know when someone's staring at you from across the room. I pressed on, deeper into the tunnels, following a faint trail of chalk marks Marcus must have left, white arrows smeared on rock. But the deeper I went, the more warped they became, like they'd been melted or shifted. At one point, an arrow pointed straight up, to a smooth stone ceiling. That's when I realized the cave wasn't just twisting, it was changing. I swear, The walls moved, slowly, subtly. The tunnel behind me never looked the same as it had when I passed through it. Sometimes I'd turn around and see a fork I hadn't noticed, or the same formation on both sides, like I'd walked in a circle when I knew I hadn't. The cave was trying to disorient me, and it was working. I found a chamber lined with stalactites so long and thin they looked like teeth. In the middle was a pool of perfectly still water. I should have kept moving, but something pulled me toward it. As I knelt down, I saw my reflection. But it wasn't me. It was me, but older, worn, eyes sunken, covered in dirt and blood. The reflection looked up and smiled. I stumbled back, heart hammering, and that's when I heard the second voice. This one was different. Not a whisper, a rasp. "Don't leave us." I turned, shining the light everywhere. Nothing. And then, footsteps. Bare, slow, behind me. I ran. I don't know how long. The tunnels blurred together, cold air slicing through my lungs, the echoes of my own panic chasing me. I don't know when I fell, but when I landed, I knew I'd dropped into a lower chamber. And Marcus was there, or what was left of him. He sat against the wall, unmoving, eyes open, mouth slack, alive, but empty. I crawled toward him, grabbed his shoulder. "Marcus!" He blinked once. Then, in a voice that wasn't his, he whispered, "You heard it too, didn't you?" Marcus blinked again, slow and unfocused, like he was trying to wake up from a long, cruel dream. I shook him harder. "Marcus, it's me, Eli. You radioed 2 weeks ago. Do you know where you are?" His mouth twitched, and then he said something that made the blood in my veins freeze. "I never left." "What do you mean? You're alive." He leaned closer, his breath rattling. "My body's here. The rest of me. The cave has it." For a long second, I didn't move. I was afraid. Afraid if I touched him again, I'd feel nothing human. His eyes flicked to the tunnel behind me, then back to my face. "It shows you things," he said. "Things you loved. Things you lost. And then it asks for more." I helped him sit up, slowly. His muscles were weak, like he hadn't moved in days. "You're not making sense," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can get out. I have a route logged on my gear. We'll retrace it." Marcus shook his head. "There is no way out. Not if you've heard it. Not if it's touched your memories. That's how it keeps you." A crack echoed in the dark, stone shifting, groaning. A reminder that the cave was always listening. I couldn't just leave him. I wasn't ready to believe he was lost. I pulled a protein bar from my pack and handed it to him. He stared at it like it was foreign. "I stopped being hungry a long time ago," he muttered. I insisted, and he finally took a bite, hands shaking. We rested for an hour. I tried to stay calm, but my mind kept going back to that reflection in the pool, the older version of me, that smile. What the hell was this place? That's when I noticed something carved into the wall behind Marcus. A symbol. It wasn't in any language I recognized, just a spiral, deep and jagged, with lines radiating from its center like veins or cracks. But standing near it made my skin crawl. It felt alive, like it had a pulse. Marcus noticed me staring. "That's the hollow heart," he whispered. "What is it?" He looked down. The cave's center, its mind, its memory. I wanted to laugh it off, call it nonsense, but after everything I'd seen, I couldn't. The echo that spoke my name, the memory of my mother, the reflection that wasn't mine. This cave wasn't just a hole in the earth. It was aware. I helped Marcus stand. He could barely walk, but he leaned on me, and we started back the way I'd come. Or at least, I tried to. The tunnels had changed again. My route tracker blinked uselessly. No signal. The walls were unfamiliar. We passed a place I thought I recognized, only to find it led to a dead end, then circled back to the chamber we'd just left. "See?" Marcus said softly. "It's already started." "What?" "It's folding around us, like a shell. It wants to keep you." I clenched my fists. "No, I'm not staying here. Neither are you." And that's when we heard the laughter. Not loud, not joyful. A child's laugh, soft and echoing, but wrong, like it had been played backward, and it came from everywhere at once. Marcus fell to his knees, covering his ears. "It's showing you something now," he said. "Don't believe it. Don't follow it." I turned, and my heart seized. Down the tunnel ahead, just beyond the edge of my headlamp's reach, stood a small figure. A child, barefoot, still, face in shadow. "Eli." It was my sister's voice. She died when I was 17. Car crash. I never forgave myself for the fight we had that night. Never forgave myself for letting her drive angry. She stepped forward into the light. It was her. Or a perfect replica. Same pink hoodie, same freckles, even the chipped tooth from when we were kids. She reached out. "You don't have to leave," she whispered. "We can stay here, be a family again. You don't have to be alone." For a moment, everything in me wanted to believe her. The guilt, the loneliness, the weight of all the years without her. But something was wrong with her eyes. Too wide, too dark. And when she smiled, it was the same smile from the reflection in the pool. I stepped back. "You're not her." She stopped smiling. Her head tilted. Then she opened her mouth and screamed. Not a sound. A force. My ears rang. My knees buckled. The light on my helmet flickered. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Run! Now!" We ran, back through twisting corridors, past the symbol, past the pool, every step echoing with that scream, growing louder behind us. The cave was collapsing, not physically, but inward, like it was folding around the memory, trapping it, trapping us. We stumbled into a tunnel I didn't recognize, and for the first time, I saw something that gave me hope. Wind, a breeze, faint, but cold, fresh. I pointed. "This way." Marcus hesitated, blinking as if waking from a trance. He nodded. We followed the draft deeper into the black, deeper toward whatever hellish or sacred place the cave was hiding. The tunnel narrowed as we pushed forward, the wind growing colder, sharper, almost slicing against my skin. It was the first real sensation I'd felt in hours that didn't seem corrupted by the cave. Something grounded, something that reminded me the outside world still existed. Marcus stumbled beside me, nearly collapsing. I caught him, hauled him up again. He was getting worse. His lips were dry and cracked, his eyes sunken like they'd forgotten how to sleep. "We're close," I told him. "Just hang on." He gave a weak nod, but I could feel it. The weight in his limbs, like the cave was dragging him back with invisible hooks. As we walked, the walls began to shift again, not physically, but in design. Carvings appeared, shapes, lines, symbols I couldn't interpret. They looked etched by hand, but no hand I recognized. The grooves glowed faintly, like old embers under ash. Then came the whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind echoing oddly through tight stone. But no, the voices were too clear, and they were saying my name, over and over. "Eli, Eli, Eli." I froze. Marcus kept walking a few paces before noticing I'd stopped. He looked back, panic rising in his face. "Don't listen," he said. "They'll use it against you. Twist everything." I wanted to ask what they were, but some part of me already knew. They were memories, twisted, fed on fear, given shape by guilt. The cave fed on the human mind, not just fear of the dark, but fear of ourselves. What we regret, what we suppress. Ahead, the path split in 3 directions. Each opening pulsed with that same dull red glow. My tracker was still useless, and the breeze, gone. "Left," Marcus rasped suddenly. "I remember the symbol." "What symbol?" He pointed at the rock. Scratched into the corner of the left tunnel was a spiral again, same as the one near the hollow heart chamber. But this one was incomplete, broken, like someone had tried to erase it. "You've been this way before?" I asked. He didn't answer. I didn't have time to argue. We turned left. This corridor was unlike the others. The stone walls began to gleam slightly, as if damp, but they weren't wet. Instead, they reflected images, like screens. I stepped closer and saw myself, younger, 16, sitting at my desk, holding my dad's pocket knife, the one he gave me before disappearing on a dive mission near the Mariana Trench. I'd been angry, confused. I broke the blade that night, pressing it too hard into a piece of wood. I'd never told anyone. The memory vanished. Then came another. My ex, Claire, sobbing in the rain the night we broke up. The moment I turned away from her, said nothing, and left her crying. And another. My college professor's funeral. The one who believed in me more than anyone else. I skipped it. Every moment of shame, guilt, fear. The cave showed them all. It knew me. Marcus was mumbling now, dragging his feet. He reached out and touched one of the glowing walls. His eyes widened. "No, no, no." I grabbed him. "Don't look at it." Too late. He collapsed, screaming. I had to slap him across the face to snap him out of it. When his eyes focused again, he whispered, "They showed me my daughter. She was alive, laughing. She's been dead for 4 years." We sat in silence for a moment, the cave pulsing around us like a living lung. "This place," I said finally, "it's more than a cave. It's some kind of memory trap." Marcus nodded. "A vein. It feeds on us, on what we leave buried." I helped him up again, and we pressed on. The walls stopped glowing after a while, the silence returning thicker than ever. Even our footsteps seemed swallowed whole. Then we saw it. An opening, wide and circular, lined with stone that looked melted, reshaped by some ancient heat. In the center was a pit, deep, black, and something pulsing at the bottom like a dim heart. "The memory vein," Marcus whispered. I took a step closer, and my stomach dropped. Inside the pit were faces, not corpses, impressions, like fossils or memories etched in rock. They moved. Some screamed, mouths open wide in silent agony. Some looked peaceful. Some looked like me. I staggered back, breath caught in my throat. The echo came again, louder than ever. "Eli, stay." The voices weren't just in my head anymore. They were around me, in the stone, in the floor, in the air. I clutched the pocket knife I'd kept in my jacket, a broken keepsake, and stepped forward. "No," I said aloud. "You don't own me. You don't get to decide what I regret." The pit pulsed. Behind me, Marcus began to weep. I turned. He was sinking, his feet swallowed by the floor. Like the cave had decided he'd seen too much. He looked at me, calm. "Go," he said. "Don't let it take you too." I reached for him, but he was already gone. Just like that, swallowed by memory. Alone again, I stood at the edge of the pit, staring into the dark that stared back. Then I heard a sound I hadn't heard in what felt like days. The tunnel narrowed, forcing me to crouch. Each movement scraped stone against my shoulders, echoing like drum beats in a tomb. The sound of dripping water grew louder, steady, rhythmic. It was the first real anchor I'd felt in hours, maybe days. The idea of something natural, something real, drove me forward. Eventually, the stone gave way to a narrow chamber. It wasn't much, just a small, dome-shaped room with jagged walls and a pool in the center. The water shimmered under the beam of my dying headlamp, reflecting the ceiling like a mirror warped by age. I dropped to my knees and drank. Cold, clean, real. As I sat back, I caught my reflection. At least, I thought it was my reflection. But then it smiled, and I didn't. I scrambled back. The water remained still, flat, but the reflection had moved. That was when I realized the truth. The cave wasn't showing me memories anymore. It was showing me possible futures, twisted, manipulated, fed by fear. And I'd just looked into one. The figure in the water rose, Not physically, but in perception. It stood where I stood. It was me, but older, pale, hollow-eyed, wearing the same jacket, the same broken knife at my hip. It, spoke without sound, mouthing 3 words that shattered the silence. You never left. The vision vanished. The water calmed. But I was shaking. Not from fear. Not exactly. From the knowledge that this place, this cave, didn't trap bodies. It trapped possibility. You didn't die here. You became part of it, if you let it. I rose and turned toward the narrow crevice leading out the other side. Claustrophobic. Darker than anything I'd faced so far. But something told me this was the way out. Or at least the way deeper, toward the source. As I crawled through the crack, the air shifted. It grew warmer, damp, almost humid. The stone changed too, smoother, more polished. It felt man-made, or man-touched, like it had been carved, but not by machines, by ritual, over centuries. And then I saw it. The descent chamber. That's what my mind called it anyway. A vast, circular void carved deep into the earth, with a spiral ramp leading downward around its walls. No railings, no signs, just a path and a sound. Faint, distant, rising from the bottom like a chant sung in reverse. I didn't want to go down, but I had no choice. I walked. The descent took time. I lost track of how long. My legs burned. My back ached. My headlamp flickered with each step, casting shadows that danced along the carved stone. The deeper I went, the clearer the chant became. Not words, not exactly, but emotions. Grief, rage, regret. I felt them before I understood them, like they were crawling under my skin. And then I saw them. The others. Etched into the walls, fused into the ramp, were faces. Real. Preserved. Half human. Half something else. Eyes open. Mouths twisted in silent screams. Some I recognized. Dr. Keller, our old geology lead. Lieutenant Vargas, from the rescue team we lost in the 2003 expedition. And then, Marcus. His face was fresh, recent. He looked peaceful, which somehow made it worse. I kept walking. Eventually, I reached the bottom. The floor was covered in black sand, smooth, cold. In the center was an altar, stone, cracked, stained dark. And on it sat a heart, pulsing, still beating. Not human, not anymore. When I stepped closer, the voices stopped. Everything stopped. The cave had brought me here, piece by piece, peeling back the layers of fear, of memory, of identity. And now it wanted me to choose. Touch the heart and become part of it, or destroy it and risk everything unraveling. I stood there, the broken knife in my hand, my own heart thudding in my chest. Behind me, the shadows stirred. They whispered promises. Peace. Truth. Belonging. And one final word. Stay. But I didn't come this far to stay. I came to survive. I came to escape. And so, with trembling hands, I raised the knife and I stabbed the heart. When the blade pierced the heart, it didn't bleed. It screamed. A sound unlike anything I'd heard before. Metal, wind, bone, memory, all crashing together in one violent, soul-tearing noise. It knocked me back, slammed me against the cavern wall, and for a moment, the world ceased to exist. Then, light. Blinding, white light. It came not from above or around, but from within. The walls cracked. The faces embedded in stone began to dissolve, breaking apart like ash in the wind. The spiral path collapsed behind me, rock turning to dust. The heart shriveled, twitched once, and turned to stone. And still, I remained, panting, bleeding, alive, but not untouched. The whispers were gone, but something else lingered in their place. A pressure behind my eyes, a taste of iron in my throat, a weight that wasn't physical. I stumbled out of the chamber, the cave shifting beneath my feet. It was like the very earth was exhaling after holding its breath for 1,000 years. Tunnels that weren't there before opened up, glowing faintly with bioluminescent moss. A current of cold air rushed through them. Fresh air. I ran. I don't remember how long I moved. Hours, maybe. But I know I passed bones, tattered gear, pieces of people who came before me and didn't make the right choice. Or maybe they did, and I was the mistake. Eventually, I saw it. The crevice we'd entered from. The collapsed passage was clear now, like something, or someone, had moved the rocks. I scrambled upward, climbing toward the surface with dirt under my nails and fire in my lungs. When I broke through, night had fallen. Stars filled the sky. Real stars. Not illusions. Not memories. I collapsed onto the grass outside the cave's mouth and cried for the first time in years, not out of fear, not even relief, just release. I was out. 2 days later, a rescue team found me wandering the nearby forest. I was dehydrated, underweight, raving about echoes and hearts and faces in the stone. They thought I'd gone mad. Maybe I had. They asked about Marcus. I told them the truth. He didn't make it. They asked about the cave. I told them to seal it forever. They didn't listen. Months passed. I returned home, or tried to, but something followed. Not a shadow, not a ghost. A hum, low, constant, at the edge of my hearing. Sometimes when I'm alone, I hear stone grinding, a voice calling from deep below, asking one simple question. Why did you leave? I tell myself it's nothing. I take pills. I see doctors. I try to forget. But late at night, when I close my eyes, I see the spiral path, the altar, the heart, and I know that whatever I destroyed down there, it wasn't the source. It was a barrier, and I broke it. So if you ever find yourself near Hollow Ridge and you feel the urge to explore that old cave, don't. Turn back. Because the cave doesn't want to kill you. It wants to know you. And once it does, you never really leave.